Stunning news out of Washington. The White House has announced FBI Director James Comey has been removed from office. Let's go to CGTN's Jim Spellman, who has been following this story for the very latest. Jim.
Comey is such a central figure to so much of what has happened in U.S. politics in the last year. Comey has been right in the center of two major investigations with huge political ramifications. First, there was last year's FBI examination of a private email server used by then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. And then there's the ongoing investigation into alleged Russian interference with the U.S. election and whether there was any collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. In a letter to Comey, President Trump writes this, quote, "While I greatly appreciate you informing me on 3 separate occasions that I am not under investigation, I nevertheless concur with the judgment of the Department of Justice that you are not able to effectively lead the Bureau." The Trump administration is pointing to Comey's handling of last year's investigation into Clinton's emails for the reason for the firing. On July 5th of last year, in the thick of the U.S. presidential election, Comey took the unusual step of holding a press conference without the consent of his boss, the Attorney General. In the press conference, he laid out details of the Clinton investigation and essentially said that no laws were broken and Clinton would not be prosecuted. It appeared to help Clinton at the time. Trump says he is acting on recommendations from the U.S. Attorney General and a Deputy Attorney General. That deputy circulated a memo that said in part this, quote, "The director was wrong to usurp the Attorney General's authority on July 5th, 2016, and announce his conclusion that the case should be closed without prosecution. It is not the function of the director to make such an announcement. It is a textbook example of what federal prosecutors and agents are taught not to do." Later in the campaign, Comey said he was reopening the email investigation into Clinton, which Democrats claimed may have helped sway the election to Trump. So Comey has certainly been a controversial figure. He's been criticized by both parties. The White House says they're hoping to restore public trust and confidence. Already, critics of the president are saying this explanation makes no sense and that it is completely inappropriate for a president to fire the FBI director while he is in the middle of investigating the White House.
We know the House is investigating Russian interference in our elections that benefited the Trump campaign. We know the Senate is investigating. We know the FBI has been looking into whether the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians. A very serious offense. Were these investigations getting too close to home for the president? It is troubling that Attorney General Sessions, who had recused himself from the Russian investigation, played a role in firing the man leading it.
Democrats are calling for an independent special prosecutor. Some critics say it recalls President Richard Nixon, who fired a special prosecutor looking into the Watergate affair in what became known as the Saturday Night Massacre. Elaine, Nixon, as we know, later resigned.
Jim, let's take a live look now at a shot of an airplane in Los Angeles that is taking off. James Comey wasn't even in Washington, D.C. when this all happened.
No, he was in California, and he was speaking with FBI officials when behind him televisions broke the news that he had been fired. Now, the Trump White House sent a letter over to the FBI office just a few blocks from the White House to deliver it, but Comey was not there. He was out in Los Angeles. You can see the plane taking off now, returning from California here to Washington, D.C. Comey had been set to testify behind closed doors on Capitol Hill about the Russian investigation. Not clear if he will go forward with that testimony at this point. I would suspect not.
Jim, tell us a little bit more about Comey.
So Comey, 56 years old, he earned his law degree from the University of Chicago. First appointed federal prosecutor back in 2003, and in 2013, President Barack Obama named him as the 7th FBI director. He's overseen many important investigations, including that investigation into Clinton's email. FBI directors are appointed to 10-year terms to ensure they serve under multiple presidents and are seen, hopefully, as being above politics. The only other FBI director to be fired was William Sessions under then-President Bill Clinton back in the 1990s. So what happens next is a huge issue. If we think that controversy is over, definitely not. The person who is now going to run the FBI in the interim is named Andrew McCabe. He's the deputy director of the FBI. He's a close ally of Hillary Clinton's and the Clinton camp. His wife ran for local office in the state of Virginia as a Democrat and received hundreds of thousands of dollars from top Clinton allies in that race. She lost, but now the person running the FBI is an ally of the Democrats, so that's bound to cause some friction with the White House.
All right, Jim Spellman, thanks for that.